Some stories feel like fireworks. This one felt like drowning, quiet, haunting, and beautiful. That quote is right from our source today, and it really sets the scene for our deep dive into Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life, A Quiet Redemption.
Mm. So our mission today is to really unpack the unexpected depth in this book, especially, for readers familiar with her other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's fair to say most people pick up an Emily Henry book expecting, well, that signature witty feel-good romance. We all know it. We love it. But what our source makes so clear is that this book, it steps way off that path. Profoundly different. It's a totally different kind of journey, really.
Yeah.
And we're going to dig into just how it manages that, how it hits so hard while, defying expectations. Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. Because this source immediately points out this is a pretty big pivot for her. Like, instead of the usual sparkling chat and instant chemistry, the reviewer found something, well, something deeper. It mentions a kind of ache underneath it all.
Yeah.
They actually described the book as being about rebuilding quietly, painfully, and honestly. That's quite a shift, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. It's a huge shift. And what really jumps out, I think, is how the book grounds its main character in this very raw, non-glamorous reality. The source really emphasizes she's not off on some magical journey of self-discovery,
Yeah.
where everything's fixed by chapter 3. No, instead she's deeply grieving. She's described as messy. And crucially, she doesn't always know what she wants. And that kind of vulnerability, that honesty, as the reviewer says, is what makes her feel incredibly real. So relatable. It's a brave move, I think, in a genre that often prefers things a bit more idealized.
Right. So this realism, it's not just about the protagonist herself, because the source also makes a point about the love interest. He isn't shown as, like, the typical savior figure. That's another common trope, right?
Exactly, yeah. And that connects so directly to the bigger idea here about what authentic relationships look like. Our source really stresses he isn't there to fix her. That happens so often in these stories. Instead, he's presented simply as a companion, someone who doesn't try to fix her. And as the review puts it so beautifully, he just stays.
Jeez, yeah.
In a story that's so much about grief and putting pieces back together, that quiet, just steady presence, well, the source says is everything. It says so much more about real support, than any grand gesture could. Real partnership in a messy life.
Okay, so we have this realistic protagonist. She's grieving. We have the non-savior love interest, this feeling of quiet rebuilding. What are the core themes, then, that emerge from the sources read on this? It sounds like grief, memory, and maybe shame are really central.
Oh, absolutely central. Our source goes quite deep into how the book handles the aftermath of, well, huge loss. And it's not just about coping. It's explicitly about choosing to live again after losing everything that gave your life shape.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not a story about quick fixes or neat closure, not at all. It's about that really difficult, often winding path back to yourself, dealing with the weight of memory, the quiet burden of shame. It's described as a remarkably unvarnished look at moving forward, even when everything inside you just wants to stand still.
And that sort of brings up an interesting question, doesn't it, about what kind of story really connects with people. The source paints this picture of an atmosphere that lingers. It doesn't rush you. It even says you can almost feel the silence between the words. That sounds, well, quite different from a lot of contemporary fiction.
It really does. And the source is quite explicit.
Right.
This book isn't for readers looking for drama, twists, plot-heavy tension. It doesn't aim for those big, forced happy endings or, glamorous escapes. Instead, the focus is squarely on quiet redemption, soft moments, hard choices.
Soft moments, hard choices. Okay.
Yeah. It's positioned as a story for those seeking truth, maybe softness, and a narrative that, as the source puts it, sees you when you're raw. It kind of invites you into this reflective space rather than just pulling you along with plot. And that's a bold choice, I think, especially for this author. And it's clearly why our source found it so moving.
Yeah, this whole deep dive, it really makes clear that Great Big Beautiful Life wasn't just a book that entertained the reviewer. It clearly deeply moved them, made them think, long after they put it down. It really speaks to the power of a different kind of story.
It absolutely does. It really challenges our maybe preconceived notions of what stories about love, about rebuilding can be. Just steps away from the cliche, doesn't it? And opts for this quiet, really profound honesty that just sort of sits with you.
So thinking about that quiet honesty, we have to ask you listening, what kind of quiet, honest stories, the ones that don't necessarily scream for attention but really earn it? What stories like that have resonated most deeply with you? Something to think about?